Let me ask you something most men are too proud to admit. How many men over 50 rush into relationships, not because they genuinely want a partner, but because they're terrified of being alone? That quiet gnawing fear, the one nobody talks about, the one men our age especially refuse to name out loud. Before we get into this, hit the like button. It helps this message reach the men who actually need it. And drop your answer in the comments. Do you think men over 50 should date casually, or go all in on something serious? Tell me why. I read every single one. Now, let's get into today's topic. And yes, it's going to make some people uncomfortable. 5 reasons to never have a girlfriend after 50 and 60, through the lens of modern Stoicism. And before you assume this is about bitterness or isolation, or some kind of anti-women agenda, let me be completely direct with you. This is about power. This is about clarity. This is about emotional freedom. This is about understanding the invisible traps that older men keep, walking into the traps that quietly bleed their energy, sabotage their peace, and slowly distort the masculinity they've spent decades building. Let's set the foundation with a simple truth. The villain in this story is not women. The villain is attachment without awareness. It's the pattern older men fall into of surrendering their boundaries because they're grateful for the attention. It's the hunger for validation that surfaces after divorce, after loneliness, after years of feeling invisible. It's the belief, the dangerous belief, that a girlfriend will fill a gap in your life that only discipline, purpose, and self-respect can ever truly close. Stoicism gives us the clearest lens available for this. Never attach your happiness to something you cannot control. And let's be honest, a girlfriend is the very definition of something you cannot control. So let's break it down. These 5 reasons apply to the vast majority of men in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia who hit their 50s and 60s and start thinking, maybe it's time to settle down again. Reason 1. Most women your age aren't looking for love. They're looking for security. This isn't a judgment. It's reality. And Stoicism demands we face reality, not the version of it we wish were true. When you're a man in your 50s or 60s, you've built something that younger men can't offer: stability, emotional control, a grounded, calm, masculine presence, real financial competence. Women, especially those in the same age bracket, notice this immediately. They're drawn to it. But here's where the trap snaps shut. Most of them are not drawn to you because of who you are. They're drawn to what you represent, what you can provide, what your presence can do for their life. And men over 50 desperately, hungry for connection, confuse this attention with genuine desire. They think she really sees me. She really wants me. The Stoic truth is sharper than that. Attraction built on convenience collapses the moment the convenience disappears. Think of it this way. You buy a boat. Suddenly, friends you haven't heard from in years want to spend the weekend with you. Are they coming for you or for the boat? Older men are the boat far more often than they realize. I've spoken with countless men who entered a relationship absolutely convinced she was different, that she genuinely liked him for him, and then 6 months later he's paying for everything, absorbing every emotional crisis, rebuilding his entire schedule around hers, receiving almost nothing in return, not because she's a bad person, but because the dynamic was never built on equal footing to begin with. It's not malicious. It's human nature. But if you're unaware of it, it becomes a trap you can't see until you're already inside it. Reason 2. You will lose your freedom faster than you think. Men in their 50s and 60s reach a stage that's genuinely rare. Life starts to finally make sense. You've walked through heartbreak, career chaos, raising kids, health scares, family drama. You've survived all of it, and somewhere on the other side you earned something precious. Your peace, your quiet mornings, your ability to say no without guilt, your right to simply exist on your own terms. And then you get a girlfriend, and almost overnight you start trading that freedom for companionship. The schedule adjusts. The things you love doing become less frequent. You start managing another person's emotional world alongside your own. You begin shrinking your life quietly, gradually, to maintain harmony in the relationship. Stoicism teaches one principle above almost all others. Guard your inner fortress. Your peace is non-negotiable. Your time is not a gift you give away carelessly. Your energy is the currency that determines the quality of everything else in your life. And yet men hand all 3 away within months of entering a new relationship. Here's a scene I've watched play out more times than I can count. A man retires. He's finally free. He has plans: travel, fitness, building something new, rediscovering who he is outside of a career. He meets a woman, and within 6 months the trips get delayed. The gym routine quietly dies. His weekends belong to her schedule, not his. He's managing her anxiety, her family complications, her expectations. His fortress doesn't get stormed by a villain. It gets invaded by his own unwillingness to hold a line. Reason 3. Emotional responsibility will shift onto you completely. This is where most men underestimate the weight of a relationship at this stage of life. Women over 50 often carry real emotional history, unhealed wounds from past relationships, divorces that left deep marks, unresolved resentment that lives just below the surface, adult children with complicated lives, financial anxieties, health concerns, social insecurities that come with aging. And you, the calm one, the grounded one, the one who handles pressure without falling apart. You become the anchor, the problem solver, the reassurance machine, the emotional safety net, the unofficial therapist she never had to pay for. And again, this doesn't make her a bad person, but it does mean something you need to hear clearly. When you absorb someone else's emotional life, you sacrifice your own. At 25, you have the energy to absorb relationship turbulence. You can take the hit and recover fast. At 55, that same energy needs to go toward your health, your purpose, your peace. What felt like excitement at 25 feels like exhaustion at 55. A relationship that was supposed to add to your life quietly becomes another weight you carry. The Stoics remind us that a man must be the master of his own inner weather. But older men in relationships almost universally end up trying to control someone else's storm instead. And the longer you do that, the more you lose yourself. You stop noticing your own needs. You stop protecting your own well-being. You stop chasing your own goals. You trade self-mastery, the thing it took you decades to build, for emotional babysitting. And the worst part? It happens so slowly, so silently, that by the time you realize what's occurred, your identity has already shifted into someone you barely recognize. Reason 4. Relationships after 50 often push you into a caretaking role you never signed up for. Here's something most men in their 50s and 60s won't say out loud, even to themselves. A girlfriend at this age often becomes another responsibility, not a partner. Not always, but often enough that you cannot afford to ignore it. Women over 50 face real challenges: health fluctuations, hormonal shifts, reduced mobility, chronic stress, emotional fatigue, financial instability, complicated family dynamics, aging parents of their own, adult children, sometimes grandchildren who need consistent support and attention. And who becomes the calm center of all of that? You do, not because anyone asked explicitly, but because you're the grounded one, the logical one, the one who listens instead of reacting, the one who handles pressure without exploding. You absorb weight naturally. It's one of your greatest strengths. But in the context of this kind of relationship, that strength becomes a trap. The Stoics are direct about this. Don't carry burdens that don't belong to you. But in a relationship after 50, those lines blur faster than you expect. You start canceling your own commitments to help with hers. You become the driver, the planner, the emergency contact, the emotional stabilizer for someone else's entire world. You entered looking for companionship. You ended up a caretaker. Let me paint a picture I've seen play out dozens of times. A man in his early 60s meets a woman who seems warm, fun, easy to be around. 6 months later, she's navigating medical appointments, deep conflict with her adult children, unresolved trauma from a previous marriage, and real anxiety about getting older. And who absorbs all of it? He does. Because he's reliable, because he cares, because he doesn't want to be the man who walked away. But here's the harsh reality underneath that. When you take on roles you never chose, you lose the man you've spent your entire life becoming. And once that dynamic starts, it almost never stops on its own. Reason 5. You risk losing the prime of your masculine renaissance. This is the final reason, and arguably it's the most important one. Men between 50 and 70 enter a chapter of life that is genuinely strange and genuinely powerful. Your testosterone may be lower than it was at 30, but your masculine essence, your wisdom, your composure, your depth is sharper than it has ever been. You're more selective, more grounded, more confident in silence, more aware of what actually matters and what never did. This is your renaissance, a real rare rebirth. But the moment you tie yourself to a relationship, especially one with a woman who isn't aligned with your pace, your values, or your version of peace, you risk losing that renaissance entirely. Because relationships demand compromise, and compromise at this stage is often the direct enemy of personal transformation. You've worked your whole life to arrive here. Your mornings belong to you. Your finances are steadier than they've ever been. You know yourself, truly know yourself, in ways that weren't possible at 30 or even 40. You understand what drains you and what builds you. You think before you speak. You feel less impulsive and more intentional. And then a committed relationship enters. And almost inevitably, the following sequence unfolds. You start placing her needs above your own. You adjust your habits to avoid friction. Your free time shrinks. Your desires get quietly shelved to maintain harmony. Your world contracts to fit the relationship. Your physical and mental growth, the things fueling your renaissance, slowly get deprioritized. And what was supposed to be the most powerful chapter of your life becomes a half-lived version of what it could have been. Stoicism is clear. Purpose must remain the center of a man's life. Not romance, not validation, not companionship. Purpose. But men over 50, starved for attention after years of feeling invisible, sideline that purpose the moment a woman shows genuine interest. Sometimes they don't even notice it's happening. A relationship may add warmth to your life, but it may also dim the fire you spent decades trying to ignite. The cost isn't just emotional. It's spiritual. It's energetic. It's the cost of becoming someone smaller so that someone else can stay comfortable. And you have to ask yourself an honest question. Is that the price you're willing to pay at this exact stage of your life? Let me be absolutely clear about something before we close. This video is not telling you to avoid women. It's not telling you to reject connection or swear off dating entirely. It's saying something far more important and far more specific than that. Never enter a relationship from a place of weakness, loneliness, or fear. Only enter from strength, from self-respect, from complete and total awareness of what you're choosing and what it will cost you. A Stoic man chooses. He doesn't cling. He doesn't chase. He doesn't bargain with his peace to keep someone around. He observes. He evaluates. He decides from clarity, not from emotional hunger. The true Stoic path is not to reject relationships. It's to refuse the ones that cost you your freedom, your purpose, or your peace. If you ever choose to bring a woman into your life, let it be because she genuinely adds to it, not because she fills a gap, not because the silence got too loud. So what should a man over 50 actually do? Here's the blueprint. Straightforward, powerful, brutally honest. First, make your purpose non-negotiable. Your mission is the spine of your masculinity, protected above everything else. Second, choose peace over companionship. A quiet home built on your terms is worth more than a loud relationship built on compromise. Choose peace every single time. Third, if you want female energy in your life, date casually. Be clear, be respectful, be honest, but protect your freedom in the process. Fourth, keep your emotional boundaries sharp. You can support without absorbing. You can be present without carrying. Know the difference and hold that line. Fifth, protect your renaissance. This chapter of your life is rare and it is powerful. Don't let anyone, including yourself, diminish it, because a man who emerges strong after 50 becomes someone younger men quietly admire, and women of all ages naturally gravitate toward him, not because he's trying to attract them, but because he is completely, unapologetically centered in himself. At the end of the day, a girlfriend is not the problem. The problem is entering a relationship blindly, without understanding what's actually at stake. A Stoic man over 50 knows the truth. Freedom is priceless. Peace is sacred. Purpose is everything. Guard all three fiercely. If a woman enhances those things, welcome her. If she threatens them, you walk away. Without hesitation, without guilt, without explanation. Because the man you are becoming in your 50s and 60s is worth far more than the comfort of any relationship that asks you to shrink. If this message hit something real in you, drop the phrase "I choose peace" in the comments below. Let me know you're a man who actually understands the deeper lesson here. And if you found value in this, like the video. Help more men find this message when they need it most. See you in the next one.